Hi, and welcome to the first video for Book Club Party Central. I am so excited to have you here. Today I will be showing you ideas to enhance your book club meeting for the book The Midwife's Confession by Diane Chamberlain. I will put a link down below for the book's Goodreads page so that you can read more about it, as well as a WillCat link so that you can find a library near you that carries it if you haven't already read it. Full disclosure, this video may contain spoilers, so you may want to come back after you have read the book. Now, before we begin, I always want to add that you don't have to follow these ideas to the T. Take whatever amount is comfortable for you. Your group members will enjoy your meeting no matter what. Let's get started. I wanted to do a baby shower brunch theme for this meeting while pulling in different aspects of the three main characters. I'll go more into detail throughout the video. For the menu, I chose items that were cooked by Emerson. The first up is a zucchini and Gruyere cheese quiche. This was made when Emerson and Tara were meeting to discuss the baby mystery. I always like to begin with the recipe with the longest cook time. This allows me to better budget my time, and if everything goes correctly, items will be completed around the same time. I picked a recipe that I found on ourbestbites.com, and I will put the link down below. If you are like me, you start cooking hours before your meeting, so the best thing about starting with this dish is that you can snack on the extra zucchini as you prepare everything for this meeting. There are a few cooking rules that I live by. One is whatever is listed for the amount of garlic needed for a recipe, that is only the minimum suggestion. Same goes for cheese. So I tripled the amount of garlic for this recipe. I also did not add any red pepper. I and at least one of my group members has a zero tolerance for spicy food. It goes without saying you should always consider the dietary needs of your members when considering the menu. I have a member who is a vegetarian, so I always like to make sure that there is at least one or two vegetarian items on my menu. For the cheese, I chose to go with an apple smoked Gruyere because I love the smoky flavor that it brings to this dish. I also sprinkled extra cheese on top. The more cheese, the better. You can find many recipes online for pie crust, but since I was short on time, I went with a store-bought crust that I already had in my freezer. It even had a tiny piece missing that I patched up and no one was the wiser. Now that the quiche is in the oven, let's start on the muffins. I used a recipe from Tyler Florence for banana nut muffins, which I will link down below. The recipe called for pecans, but I substituted them for walnuts. Banana walnut muffins were something that were sold at Emerson's Bakery hot. I used half reusable muffin liners and half paper. I will use the muffins baked in the silicone liners for the meeting and send the ones in the paper liners home with my members as party gifts. The third item that I made is pumpkin bread. Emerson made her grandpa's recipe when she went to go visit him at hospice. While there are plenty of recipes for pumpkin bread available, for time budgeting purposes, I went with the premix option from Pillsbury. This is also to show that you have a successful book club meeting. You don't have to stress over making items from scratch. I typically run behind on schedule, so having this option available takes off a lot of stress for me and allows me to start my meeting as close to on time as possible. Now that we are done with the food, let's get to the fun part, setting the table. I went with a borrowed green and blue paisley tablecloth, which was inspired by the blue and green paisley skirt that Noelle wore when she stopped in to see Tara. I used my everyday off-white dishes in order to not pull away attention from the other items that I will be adding to the table. Throughout the book, much is mentioned about Noelle's garden. My idea for the table centerpiece was to replicate her garden. To make my centerpiece stand out, I am going to place it on a pedestal. Don't worry too much about the color of your pedestal, as we are going to be covering it up. A bird bath with a bronze statue of a girl on her tiptoes was found in Noelle's garden. I found something close to this online. Since it wasn't bronze, I painted it with a transparent bronze paint. I think the transparency gives it a nice age look. After the meeting, I think the statue will be a nice addition to my garden. I will show a full view of the statue later. In Noelle's garden, she planted chrysanthemums, coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, Shasta daisies, and impatiens. At my local nursery, I was able to find mums and impatiens in season, so I bought a few different colors that I thought would contrast beautifully with the colors in my tablecloth. If they are in season for you, consider adding pansies to your centerpiece. These were planted by Tara when she was tending to Noelle's garden. You can allow your members to take a plant home with them if you don't want to plant them after the meeting. To protect my tablecloth, I am placing pieces of paper towel under the pots that I cut down to just about the size and shape of the flower pots. Next, I added blue napkins for a dark pop of color that matched the tablecloth and went well with the flowers. For napkin rings, I used inexpensive shower curtain rings that I bought at a hardware store. They came with clips, which you can easily remove with some pliers, but I decided to not remove them, and instead, I used them to hold the discussion questions. The rings represent the silver hoop earrings that Noelle used to wear. I got creative when printing out my discussion questions, which I got from readinggroupguides.com. I will put a link to the questions in the description below. Emerson, when going through a stack of papers and cards of Noelle's in an effort to learn more about her life, comes across some of Noelle's stationery. Her stationery was a peach paper with a basket weave pattern. To replicate it, I found a basket weave pattern online and used it as a light gray watermark for easier reading of the discussion questions. Emerson is said to have a sloppy slope to her handwriting. I tried to find a font that had a sloppy slope to it while also being easily readable. I settled on Veneer Hand ITC, which is a standard font in Microsoft Word. I bought a multicolor pack of paper that had a peach color in it. Don't worry about paper going to waste. You can use the other colors and leftover peach for future book clubs, and you can always use it for arts and crafts. When Tara comes over to Emerson's house to discuss the baby mystery, Emerson serves coffee in blue and white floral cups. I had been gifted some china that had a blue floral design, which wasn't exactly a perfect match to Emerson's, but they are close enough and they look great on the table. Do not stress about matching things to a T. Sometimes putting a personal spin on things will bring something extra to your table. Next, I added some champagne glasses for mimosas, which were also served when Tara and Emerson met. Last glass to be added to the table are the water glasses. Nothing fancy here, just some short glasses that won't take away the focal point from anything else on the table. Add some silverware and your table is now almost ready for the food. Our centerpiece needs just one more thing added to that, and it's herbs. These were found in Noelle's garden. Depending on the season, you can purchase herb plants and either give them to your group members or plant them in a garden or greenhouse. Since it was winter for me when I hosted this book group, I went with already cut herbs. The ones I selected were sage, basil, and rosemary. These were found fairly inexpensively at my local farmer's market. So that they do not go to waste, I plan on drying them out and adding them to my spice containers. In placing the herbs around my centerpiece, I use them to hide the paper towels that I put under my potted flowers. The herbs also added a lovely aroma to the table. All right, now let's get the drinks on the table. First up is the easiest, and that's the water. I serve filtered water at all my meetings as it seems to make everyone happy. Throughout the book, much is mentioned about the purple striped travel mug that Grace gave to Sam. I found a purple striped tumbler on Amazon that I left on the table with extra water for refills. I will leave a link to it in the description below. It is not as large as a pitcher, but it ties in well with the book, and also the purple looks great with the flowers in the centerpiece. I prefer a sweeter mimosa, so I use Moscato instead of champagne. Today I'm making my mimosa with Barefoot Moscato, which is one of my go-tos. I also prefer a less tart orange juice, so I am using Trop 50. In my mimosa, I am adding the wine directly to the glass, but for everyone else, I'm only pouring orange juice in their glasses. My guests can decide for themselves privately if they are drinking today. I do not want anyone to feel uncomfortable with making an announcement that they are not ready to make. Last beverage on the table is the coffee. Sam and Grace always used to make a strong coffee concoction. Terry used to call it high test coffee. I made a version of this using a strong coffee as my base. I selected 454 horsepower by Kicking Horse Coffee. I then added coconut oil and butter ghee to it. Since it is so strong and a different drink that many may be used to, I'm only pouring a small amount in each glass. I will keep some coffee warm in the pot should any of my members want more. Now, all you have to do is put the food on the table and your meeting is ready to begin. One quick thing about the pumpkin bread that I wanted to add. I serve mine with butter as well as a pumpkin spread. Who says there could be too much pumpkin? Oh, and if you like to pair your outfit to the book, I did that as well. You may have seen my skirt here and there in the video. It is a paisley print reminiscent of the one that Noelle wore. I wore it with a tank top, silver hoop earrings, and sandals just like she did. Sit back and relax and enjoy your discussion about the Midwife's Confession by Diane Chamberlain. I hope you enjoyed this video and you found some items to include in your meeting. If you do, I would love to hear about it below, or if you did something different, please tell me about that as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video for Book Club Party Central.